The auctioneer's voice echoed through the packed hall like the crack of a whip. The air stank of sweat, smoke, and desperation. Chains rattled as trembling alien slaves were paraded across the platform, their fates determined by the greedy hands of merchants and nobles. Lot number 17, the auctioneer bellowed, dragging forward a thin, gray-skinned alien woman with shackles biting into her wrists. Filthy, disobedient, practically worthless. But for 5 credits, she's yours. The crowd laughed cruelly. The woman hung her head, her long, tangled hair clinging to her face, a stench of neglect clinging to her frail form. She was treated like refuse, and the people cheered as if mocking her pain was entertainment. But at the edge of the hall, one man wasn't laughing. Jared, son of a minor merchant, stood stiffly in the crowd. He wasn't here for slaves, he hated these auctions. But his father had dragged him here, determined to make an example. Jared had been outspoken, too bold in challenging the town council, daring to call the trade in living beings barbaric. His punishment had been swift and humiliating. "If you pity them so much," his father sneered before the gathered nobles, "then you shall marry one." The laughter had been deafening. Now, as the auctioneer gestured toward Lot 17, the crowd jeered Jared's name. 5 credits for the boy's bride, someone shouted. The gavel slammed down. The alien was his. Chapter 1, The Marriage No One Wanted. The wedding was little more than a mockery. A bored magistrate muttered words over the chains that bound the alien girl's wrists. Jared, with his jaw tight, repeated the vows, ignoring the snickering audience. She said nothing. Her large, amber eyes stayed fixed on the floor. Afterward, she was shoved into Jared's small wagon, still reeking of the filth of her captivity. The smell clung to the straw mat where she sat, silent, unmoving, as if she were bracing for another cruelty. Jared drove in silence, his mind a storm. He had wanted justice, not this farce. They thought they had humiliated him. They thought they had tied him to misery. But when he looked at her, at the bruises on her wrists, the way her shoulders curled inward like she was trying to make herself invisible, his anger turned to something else. Compassion. When they arrived at his modest home outside town, Jared unfastened the chains himself. The metal clattered to the floor. "You're free here," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." She didn't answer. She only rubbed her wrists and stared at him warily, as if not believing him. "What's your name?" Jared asked. Silence. He sighed. "Then we'll start with food." Chapter 2. Learning to breathe again. Days passed, and Jared gave her space. He cooked meals, leaving them near her without forcing her to eat. He cleaned her wounds, leaving bandages and warm water nearby. Slowly, her mistrust softened. One evening, as he chopped vegetables by the hearth, she finally spoke. "Lyra," she whispered. The knife stilled in his hands. He turned to see her, eyes glistening in the firelight. "My name is Lyra." From that night onward, the silence began to break. Piece by piece, she revealed fragments of her past, taken from her world in a raid, sold as labor, passed from owner to owner. She had forgotten the sound of kindness. Jared listened, always listened. He never pressed, never demanded. And Lyra slowly began to trust him. She bathed in clean water for the first time in years. The stench faded, revealing skin marked with scars, but also with quiet beauty. She stood straighter, her amber eyes no longer dulled by fear. And Jared found himself smiling when she entered the room. Chapter 3. Against the World. But the world outside their small home was not kind. When Jared brought Lyra into town for supplies, whispers followed them. The slave wife. The stinking alien. Children threw stones when they thought Jared wasn't looking. Merchants refused to serve her. One evening, as they walked back home, a group of young men blocked their path. 5 credits, Jared. One sneered. That's what she's worth. 5 lousy credits. Rage surged in Jared's chest. He stepped forward, fists clenched. But before he could strike, Lyra touched his arm. Not here, she whispered. Her voice trembled, but her eyes burned with quiet strength. Together, they walked away, hand in hand. At home, Jared finally spoke. They'll never stop. Not unless we fight. Lyra met his gaze. Then we fight. Together. Chapter 4. Building a New Life. Fighting didn't always mean violence. For Jared and Lyra, it meant proving every whisper wrong. She worked beside him in the fields, her alien strength making tasks quicker. She sang as she tended the garden, her strange, lilting melodies filling the air with life. Jared traded their crops in town, refusing to let anyone cheat him. Slowly, grudgingly, some neighbors saw that she was not filth, not a burden, but a partner. One by one, walls began to crumble. The children who had once thrown stones now watched curiously as Lyra wove intricate patterns into baskets, teaching them the craft. Women who had sneered at her now asked for her remedies, made from herbs Jared had never known how to use. She was no longer Lot 17. She was Lyra, wife of Jared. Chapter 5. Happier than ever. Years passed. On a spring morning, Jared sat on the porch, listening to the laughter drifting from the garden. Lyra knelt among the flowers, her hair braided neatly, her smile radiant as she watched 2 small children chase each other through the grass. Their children. Jared's chest swelled with a warmth he had never known. The punishment that had once been meant to break him had given him a life richer than gold. He rose and walked to her side, taking her hand. She squeezed it, her amber eyes shining. We were supposed to be miserable, Jared murmured. Lyra smiled. Then we disobeyed. The 2 of them stood together, watching their children play under the sun. The laughter of their family carried on the wind, stronger than the cruelty of the world, brighter than any mockery. Once, she had been sold for 5 credits. Once, he had been punished with a sham marriage. But now, they were exactly what everyone else could never understand. Happier than ever.